Hello, my name is Rick West, and I'd like to welcome you to the National Museum of the American Indian. It is my good fortune to be director of the museum, which is right across from the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. I'm also a Native American, a Southern Cheyenne, and member of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma. I'm delighted to be the first to invite you into our brand new museum to explore some of the exciting traditions and cultures of the native peoples of the Western Hemisphere. Today you are going to see dancing from Alaska, hear some wonderful Hawaiian singing, visit our exhibitions, explore the grounds of the museum, which will remind you of a real native landscape. You will also learn how to make and play a flute, the way the Aymara Indians do in Bolivia. If you're lucky, you might even see some of the ducks who now live in the wetlands area in front of the museum. Thank you for joining us today. Enjoy your trip, and remember that this is where America's heritage begins.
Good afternoon or good morning wherever you are across this country today, and welcome to the live interactive electronic field trip sponsored by Ball State University, Best Buy Children's Foundation, and the National Museum of the American Indian. I'm Glenn Augustine from Ball State University, and we are in the Potomac area of the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C.
Tansei Logan. What I said was hello in Cree, my language. My name is Logan. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm in 5th grade, and I go to Indian Community School.
Logan, you say you go to Indian Community School. Are all the children there Cree?
No.
How many different tribes are represented there?
About 14.
14 different tribes. All right, well, we are inside, as I said, the Potomac area of the National Museum of the American Indian. This is a brand new museum. This museum just opened when, Logan?
September 21st.
That's right, September 21st. It's located on the National Mall near the U.S. Capitol building. There you see a groundbreaking and some of the construction for this building. When you see the buildings outside, it looks like a natural landscape, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Tell me about the way it's curved a little bit.
It's curved by, some people say it's curved by wind and water because it looks like there's waves on the walls, like wind and water. When the wind connects to the water, it makes waves.
Right, so the building is shaped like a natural mesa that you might see out in the American Southwest, and looks like it's shaped by wind and water. So we are going to be talking today to a number of people around the inside of the museum, right?
Right.
All right, where are we going to go first? Who are we going to check in with?
We're going to check in with
Cynthia, right?
And John.
And where are they?
They're in the
Pamunkey
exhibit.
Yeah, let's go upstairs.
Hi, Glenn and Logan.
Hello.
I'm Cynthia Chavez, and I'm from San Felipe Pueblo, New Mexico. I'm an associate curator with the museum, and today I'm in the Our Lives exhibit space in the Pamunkey community section with a student from Wisconsin, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Segu, John Yugets, only one Saga Ginyata. What I said was hello in Oneida, and my name is John, or that's what they call me, and I'm Turtle Clan, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Later today, we'll be talking about Pamunkey pottery and the Kalinago community.
Okay, we'll be checking in with those guys a little later on. We also have another group up inside the museum, right?
Jared and Hannah. I do believe that they're in the
They are in the Mapuche
The
exhibit.
Mapuche exhibit.
Hi Glenn, hi Logan. My name is Jared. I'm Navajo from New Mexico and I work here in the museum, and I'm also here with a student from Oklahoma.
Hi, I'm Hannah Wafpa Harris. I'm from Northern Oklahoma and I'm half Kickapoo.
Hannah, can you tell us today where we're at in the museum?
We're in the
Mapuche.
exhibit in the Our Universe Gallery.
Now Hannah, where are the Mapuche located?
They're located in southern Chile.
Southern Chile, also in parts of Argentina. Can you explain just a little bit real quickly about the object that you see behind us?
It's the Rewi, and it's the center of the universe for the Mapuche, and they have, in the Mapuche universe, they have the Machi, who are the healers, and each Machi gets one in there.
That's correct, Hannah. Just one more. Why do we include the Mapuche here in the museum?
Because the museum is a hemispheric place, and it has everyone in the Western Hemisphere.
That's right. Back to you, Glenn.
Okay, just to expound on what the Western Hemisphere is, that's everybody in the Americas, from the Arctic Circle down to the tip of South America, Tierra del Fuego. So we're talking about native peoples across North, Central, and South America, right?
Right.
And we have one more group with us here today. Who's that?
Dwayne and Athena that are outside. How you guys?
Hi, how you doing? Hi, my name's Dwayne Blue Spruce. I'm from Laguna and San Juan Pueblo in New Mexico. I'm an architect and facilities planning coordinator with the National Museum of the American Indian, and I'm joined today by Athena. Athena, would you like to introduce yourself?
Buju Athena Indigenous Shnabe Makwanidudum. What I said in my Ojibwe language was, hello, my name is Athena, my tribe is Ojibwe, and my clan is Bear.
And we're both standing outside the museum in the landscape area, and today we're going to be talking about the 4 cardinal direction markers, which are special stones that have been placed outside the museum in the landscape. Back to you, Glenn and Logan.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. We'll be talking to you again later. Now, we also want to hear from you students who are out there across the United States today. This is your field trip as much as it is Logan's field trip. So we want to hear from you. And Logan, how can they check in with us?
Well, you could call the number at the bottom of your screen, or you can email us also at the bottom of your screen, or you could just check out the website. And if you don't check out the website but still email us and you have a question, one of our experts will answer your question.
That's right. And if you call in, we may be able to take your question live on the air, right?
Right.
All right. So please get involved, interact, call in or email in, because this is your field trip. We're here to try to answer your questions. And what's one of the early activities we're going to be doing that we hope students will share with us?
The family statement.
That's right. If you have already written a family statement and would like to share it with us here and with children across the country, we would encourage you to call in now, because we're going to be getting to those family statements in just a few minutes. So it's time to kick off the show. It's time to learn what it means to be Native. Okay, as I said, we're standing here inside the Potomac area, and right here at our feet are some stones that are divided into 4 sections. And Logan, if you can, please tell me, we're going to get a shot of these stones. What do these stones represent?
These stones represent the north, south, east, and west, or in other words, the cardinal directions.
The cardinal directions. Okay, we're going to be focusing a lot on the cardinal directions today. And one of the cardinal directions, the east, is where we're going to start today. And what is interesting about the east direction when you also think about the museum?
Well, actually, the east entrance is the main entrance, and that's the same way that the sun rises in the morning, so it's like it's greeting the museum.
Okay, and also, why is the museum here on the National Mall?
Because there was Native Americans here around this area, and if you look all around here, there are very many different museums, but there is not one specifically made for Native Americans. So I thought it was pretty special that they made one just right here.
Speaking of special, you're wearing something special around your neck today. Why don't you tell me what this is?
This is a medicine pouch that my whole entire class gave to me.
And what is inside the medicine pouch?
All 4 medicines.
And what are the 4 medicines?
Sage, sweetgrass, cedar, and tobacco.
Okay, we might talk about those a little bit more later on. Let's take a look around the museum a little bit as we try to give you a little bit of a video tour of what you would see if you came here to the National Museum of the American Indian. The Our Universe area is one of the exhibits here, and various communities talk about their universe and how they relate to the world around them. not only through history, but also through today. So if you were to visit this part of the museum, you would see how these 8 communities reflect life in our universe. There's also the Our Peoples exhibit here at the museum. The moon plays a big role in many Native cultures. But this area here shows some of the items that show that American Indians and Natives were here long before Columbus discovered America in 1492. The gold and silver represent power. They weren't used for money back then. The Our Peoples exhibit also focuses on communities that are alive and thriving today. And that's one of the really interesting aspects to this museum. This is not just about Native American or Indian history. It's also about how people are thriving across this country, across Canada, in South and Central America, even today. So as you go about the museum, you would learn from about 24 different communities they have in here right now. And through the years, the communities will actually change. So more communities will be represented here in the museum. All right. We are now going to go to one of our other hosts here, and that's Jenny. And Jenny's going to talk to us a little more about what it means to be Native and in a Native place.
Hey, thanks, Glenn. I actually want to introduce some of the other students that we have here with us today. As Glenn said, my name is Jenny. I work here at the museum in the education office, and I'm a member of the Osage tribe, which is in northeastern Oklahoma. The other students here, I have Casey. Casey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Tanase, my name is Casey Gott. I'm a member of the Cree clan in Manitoba, Canada, Cree tribe, and I go to Indian Community School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Great, thanks for being here, Casey. This is BJ. BJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is BJ Shafsaw. I'm in the 7th grade. I go to Irving Middle School in Norman, Oklahoma.
And we also have Amanda here. Amanda, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Amanda Cavola, and I go to Irving Middle School in the 7th grade in Norman, Oklahoma.
Great, thanks. We're going to be in the Potomac area today, as Glenn said. We have a lot of things that are going to happen. We have some activities that we're going to do, some dancing and some music. We also have behind us here a group of 6th grade students from Hardy Middle School here in Washington, D.C. So we're so glad that they're here with us to help us with this electronic field trip today. One thing that Glenn said we're going to talk about is what makes this museum a Native place. How is the museum a Native place? This museum is actually in all things that the museum does, everything from the design of the building, the landscape outside, the exhibitions inside, and even the food in the cafeteria was all done with input from Native people from across the Western Hemisphere. We have communities that we worked with and got their input on what they thought this building should be about, what the museum should say. And so this museum really does have a Native voice and a Native perspective here in all of the different aspects and components of the museum. We're going to learn a little bit more about that today. But we also want to talk about what it means to be Native. And as I mentioned before, I'm a member of the Osage tribe, which is from northeastern Oklahoma. Although my tribe is from Oklahoma, I grew up in Colorado. So I grew up in my family. It was very important to us to maintain connected and stay connected to our traditions and the customs in Oklahoma. And so each summer we go back for our dances and we visit our relatives and we see friends and family that we haven't seen for a while. And it's very important to us to maintain that connection to the past and to our grandparents and to those who came before us. And so for me, that's what it means to be Native. It means it's the importance of staying connected to who you are and where you're from and recognizing that and making sure this is a part of your everyday life. And so that's why I'm so proud to work here at the National Museum of the American Indian. I also wanted to ask Casey, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, for you, what it means to you to be Native American.
It pretty much means a lot what you said, Jenny, of how you got to keep in touch with like where your tribe is and your family that's back on wherever your reservation is. And my family goes up to where my family is, like every 2 years, and we go to the powwows and things like that, and we have a good time, and we see a lot of relatives that we haven't seen in a long time.
Great, so your family and staying connected to where you're from is important to you also. Let's try to see if maybe Jared can help give us an answer too. Jared, do you want to tell us a little bit about what it means to you to be a Native American person?
Hi, Jenny. That's a really good question. Actually, Hannah, can you provide some insight into that?
Well, it's really special to me because when I go to powwows, I think it gets me closer to my family and I get to spend more time with them.
That's absolutely right. And for me, Jenny, it really means my community in Nosh City, New Mexico, and it's really about not forgetting where I come from.
These answers are right. There isn't really one definition of what a Native American person is. Each Native person sort of defines themselves a little bit for their own background and for who they think they are. And even sometimes you might notice today we use different terms. Some people say Native American, some people say American Indian or Native or indigenous person. And all of these are terms that can be used to describe or to talk about Native people. And as you heard us all mention, we're from specific communities. So Casey's Cree and I'm Osage. Jared said that he is Navajo. And so all of these answers that everybody gave are right, they're correct. Some of you out in your classrooms might have done a lesson or put together your family statements. If you have family statements, pull those out, and some of you maybe can call into the phone and you can share your family statements with us. But while we're waiting for that, Casey wrote a family statement here, and I'd like to ask Casey if you could read your statement for us.
Sure. Okay. I brought a piece of a tree. This piece of a tree represents my family because on a tree there are many branches that are near each other and those that are not. There are members of my family that are close to each other and those are not. I have a large family like a tree with many branches. Some are old and some are young. We may all be spread out, but we are also connected down to our roots, just like a tree.
That's great, Casey. So when you worked on your family statement, was there anybody in your family that you talked to help you come up with this statement?
I talked to my mom because a tree is very big and my family is very big, so they kind of paired off there.
And your mom thought that the tree would be a good example of an object to bring. Where did you get this piece of tree that you brought in?
Well, I'm pretty sure my mom got this from one of her really close friends as a gift, and she let me borrow it for this trip.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And like I mentioned before, any of those of you who are watching, if you wrote a family statement that you'd like to share with us, please call into our phone number and let us know, because we'd love to hear what some other kids around the country have to say about their family statements. We're also going to hear from another student here in DC. Jacob is outside with Dwayne, and he'd like to share his family statement with us. Jacob?
Great, thanks, Jenny. We're outside. I've been joined by Jacob. Jacob, would you like to introduce yourself and share your family statement with us?
Ha impoyomda, Jacob Sotai Aka. I said, hi, how are you? My name is Jacob Sotai in Kiowa, and this represents my family because my last name Sotai in Kiowa means hatchet or tomahawk.
Great, thank you, Jacob. Back to you, Jenny.
Okay, great. We also wanted to talk about, if there's anybody else who has a family statement that they want to share, again, please send it on in. We're going to go to the section where we look at the East, and we're going to look at some video, and we're going to have Glenn intro that for us.
Let's talk a little bit again, and thanks, Jenny. Let's talk about that family tree, because Casey was talking about her family tree, and so we'll reveal to everybody out there that you and Casey are brother and sister, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, and I've seen how you guys act around each other for the past week. So she talked about some branches of her family tree are out far and some are close together. Where would you put the two of you?
Close together.
Very close together, wouldn't you say? You know, Logan was telling me that he does most of his sister's chores, so that shows you how close they are. So we want to remind you that this is your field trip out there. It's really up to you to get involved, right? And how does everybody, Logan, get involved out there?
You could call the number at the bottom of your screen, or you can email, and one of our experts will give you your answer, or you can email us and just look around at the website.
That's right. We want to remind you can call in. We'll take some questions live on the air. You can email questions in. We have a bank of experts, and we may actually read some of those email questions on the air. And then again, the website also has some interactive lesson plans and games for you to look through to help you expand on this experience using the National Museum of the American Indian as a great tool for learning here today. Well, as we talked about those cardinal directions. And what are they again?
North, south, east, and west.
All right, and we said that the sun rises in the east, so that seems like a good direction for us to start our show, doesn't it?
Right.
All right, let's get started in the east.
Hi, Athena and I are now in the eastern part of the landscape. This is the wetland area of the landscape, and these cardinal direction markers, we're standing behind the eastern cardinal direction marker, and each one of these stones is directly linked to the center of the building, the center space where Glenn and Logan are, the center of the Potomac. So if you drew a line directly from the center of the Potomac space straight to the east, you would draw a line right through this particular stone. And the other thing that these stones do, in addition to marking the cardinal directions out in the landscape, is they also serve as metaphors for people of the Americas and people from the four directions. And it's a way of showing that the museum is working with Native people from across the Americas and reaching out to various communities. So this particular stone came from a local place, and Athena, you might be able to tell us where that is.
It came from Sugarloaf Mountain in Maryland.
And what kind of stone is this? It's kind of got a white color to it. What kind of stone is it?
I believe it's called a quartzite.
Very good. And it's kind of a big stone. Can you tell us how much this particular stone weighs?
5,000 pounds.
Very good. And some of these stones are really old. This stone is very old. Can you tell us how old this stone is?
544 million years old.
Very good. And I should mention that the museum worked directly with the Virginia Council on Indians and the Maryland Commission of Indian Affairs on selecting this particular stone. And there's kind of an interesting story that happened when this stone was first moved from its original location. You want to tell us about that?
When they were moving the branches and getting them out of the way, a whole bunch of butterflies came out from behind it, and that's how they knew that they picked the right rock.
Right, so it was a good indication that this was definitely the stone for this particular location out here in the landscape. Back to you, Glenn and Logan.
Okay, thanks a lot to Dwayne and Athena out there talking about the Eastern Rock. Again, we want to remind you that this is your field trip, so pick up the phone or get online and call in. Those are two ways you can interact with this show. It is live and interactive, and we're here to try to answer your questions. Now, but first, we're talking about the East right now, so let's learn about some Indians from the East.
We have Cynthia and John in the Pamunkey exhibit. Hi, you guys.
Hi. The Pamunkey tribe is located in the east, about 125 miles south of Washington, D.C. And before we start talking about pottery, we're going to say a little bit about how the community exhibits were developed. Can you let us know, John?
Some of the people in the museum went around to community members and they put their input into some of the exhibits, all the exhibits throughout the museum.
That's right. We did what is called community curation. The curators work with community representatives to develop these exhibits. And one of the things that was developed in the Pamunkey tribe exhibit is a section on pottery, which we have right here. John and I have been talking a little bit about this, and John made an excellent observation about one of the plates in the case. Can you let us know about that, John?
Well, one of the plates has people on it, and one has a stick coming out of their back, and one has one coming out of their head, and the one with the stick coming out of their back represents Europeans, and the other represents Native Americans, and the almost like a peace treaty between the two, and I thought that was a really cool symbolism.
Yeah, that's a good observation. The plate, it has pictographs on it that depict the treaty and the relationship between the Pamunkey and England. Pictographs are a good way about communicating messages, and that's one of the ways that the Pamunkey have chosen to design their pottery. We've also talked a little bit about the transition of pottery styles, so let us know a little bit about that, John.
Most of the pottery on the bottom here has a natural color to it. It's not painted or glazed. And as we go further up, it starts to get fancier, start painting it. And then as you can see up here, they actually have paints on them, they're glazed, and they just got fancier.
Yeah, that's right. The pottery at the bottom is primarily used for utilitarian or as containers to hold various things. And as time went along, the Pamunkey made pottery to sell to tourists, and that's when you start to see commercial paints being used in different colors, and then glazes to make the pots shiny, because this was just more appealing to tourists to see this kind of pottery. But one of the changes you see is what, John? What's one of the changes we see in some of the more contemporary pottery on the top?
They try to go back to more of their traditional ways with not having glazing or painting on them.
Yeah, that's right. You see these larger pots on the top, they just have the natural color of the clay. And another interesting thing about the Pamunkey pottery is that there's been a change in who's making the pottery. Traditionally, it was Pamunkey women, and today you see men starting to make pots. The pots on top, the naturally colored ones, those are made by an artist named Kevin Brown, who's you know, an active artist in the community today. Later on, we'll be talking about the Kalinago, which is in some ways related to what's going on here with the Pamunkey, because as I stated, the pots are made primarily in contemporary times, primarily to sell to tourists, and that's something that's really important is in establishing a market for Native arts and crafts, so that Native peoples can continue the traditions. What are some of the crafts that you create in your tribe?
The Oneida like to do a lot of beadwork, and they can make it keep for themselves or give it away or sell it.
Are there any particular crafts that you make, John?
I make bracelets, and I can also do like beading.
Oh, well, that's great. It's youth like this that, you know, help perpetuate Native traditions. Well, right now we're going to go into a community story on the Pamunkey, where you'll learn more about their history and their traditions.
Without that sovereignty, we wouldn't have a reservation any longer. The most recent treaty, which is still in effect, was signed in 1677, and it has been taken over by the state of Virginia and still honored in the same fashion. The original treaty called for the Indians to pay a gratuity, and the gratuity now has been generally game. And that is paid to the governor of Virginia every year, the day before Thanksgiving.
Now, Virginia's American Indians have played a pivotal role in our shared history.
That ceremony in itself goes a long ways to maintaining our sovereignty. Until I moved here 20-some years ago, I always lived in the city. I don't believe you could pay me to go back to the city now. It's just a very beautiful, peaceful place to live.
Hi everybody, we're back. And right now we have a caller on the line. Susan from Wisconsin, what's your question?
Hello?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Susan.
Hi. I was just wanting to make some remarks on what you were saying as far as what being a native means.
Okay, go ahead.
I was raised on the Ojibwa Reservation in Lawrence, Michigan. It's a zebra reservation. And I was raised with my grandparents, and we were taught that being a native was a way of life and a way of your heart, seeing each other as one, and that's what made us whole. And it made us more strong spiritually as seeing each other as one and being whole. We always look to each other for a stronghold. When we are weak, we see our strength in another person. I just wanted to call and give some, different opinions on what being Native is. So, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you very much, Susan, for calling in. As Jenny said earlier, a lot of different people have different perspectives on what it means to be Native, so we just have another one.
Yes.
Okay, we have a call now from Jimmy in Ohio. Jimmy, go ahead.
Hi, how old is the big rock?
Okay, how old is the big rock? And he must be talking about the eastern rock that we saw outside. So can we go outside to Dwayne and answer that question? Dwayne?
Yeah, the eastern rock that we were at before, that one is 544 million years old, so that's a really old rock. And then this one that we're behind right now. You want to tell us how old this one is?
This was about 4 billion years old.
Yeah, so this is the oldest of the 4 cardinal direction markers, and we'll talk about this one in a few minutes. Back to you.
Okay, great. So now let's go over to Jenny. I think Jenny has some questions over in the classroom, right?
Yep, Jenny, Hi, Jenny.
Hi, thanks. We have a question from one of our students here from the Hardy Middle School classroom. Amanda, could you introduce our student?
My name is Daisha. What's your question?
My question is, what type of things were pottery used for in the Indian tribes?
Okay, that's a great question. What kinds of things were pottery used for? And Cynthia and John talked a little bit about the Pamunkey pottery upstairs, but Native American people from all over the Western Hemisphere have made pottery of different kinds for many different reasons. Pottery could be used for storage for food, could be used for water containers, or maybe for storing other things as well. Pots come in all different sizes, small and large. So that's a great question. Thanks for asking. We have another question. Nikita from California. Go ahead. What's your question? Nikita?
Yeah?
Do you have a question for us?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
How did the first Indians know how to survive?
How did the first Indians know how to survive? That's a great question. Maybe we could ask Logan if he could try to give an answer to that question. Logan, you want to try to answer Nikita's question for us?
Sure. There are very many different ways that tribes make the creation story, but I don't really believe in one. I believe in all of them. That's a really good question, by the way. I think that they survived by the Creator's teachings, which I call at my school the 7 core values. It's respect, truth, love, humility, honesty, wisdom, and I forgot the other one.
All right, we got 6 out of the 7.
Yeah, we got 6 out of 7,
Right.
but I think that's how they survived.
So what else would they do to survive? They would, how would they gather food?
They would probably hunt, just like they did earlier on.
Okay, so people hunted. What else did they do?
They probably fished. They probably went spear fishing, and they probably gathered food like wild rice and all this other stuff.
All right, and then also later on, Native peoples began to grow crops, right?
Right.
And corns, beans, and squash, those are 3 very important crops to Native Americans, is that right?
Yes, those are the 3 sisters to the Native Americans.
Okay, so now we talked earlier about you could not only call in, but you could email a question, and Jared has a question for us in the forum, right?
Yeah. Jared, what question do you have there?
Hey, Logan. We have a couple of good questions coming in on the forum, and Hannah has one for us.
Tyler from Highland Heights would like to know how long it took to build the museum.
And our experts responded to Tyler by saying that the museum broke ground in 1999, but actually it took about 3.5 years to complete the building. Back to you.
Okay, thanks very much. What we want to do now is we want to talk a little bit. We've seen some pottery right now, and we know that pottery was used for what, like carrying water?
Carrying water, probably gathering food, and probably gathering dried meat.
Okay, so now let's learn a little bit more about containers. We've got a container activity, right?
Yes, with Jenny and BJ. I think they're going to talk about containers. Okay, back over to you guys.
Great, thanks, Logan. I'm here with BJ. We're going to talk about some containers, but before we do that, we have one other question from our students here from Hardy. Amanda, why don't you introduce our student?
Alexander.
What's your question?
For how long have Indian tribes made pottery?
That's a great question, Alexander. How long have Indian tribes been making pottery? BJ, do you think you could give an answer to that question?
No, I don't
Probably
think I
for a
can.
long time, right?
Yeah.
We have some pieces here that represent some different kinds of containers. Pottery we've been talking about mostly, and pottery is one of the oldest kinds of containers that Native American people made because it comes from natural elements, right? It comes from clay from the ground. Well, we have one pot here. BJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about this pot?
This pot, it came from somewhere, Acoma, New Mexico, and it has designs on it or symbols on it that are supposed to represent pieces of nature and the earth.
Okay. What are some of the symbols that you see on here? Can you name a few?
Well, these symbols up here around the rim would probably represent clouds, and the feathery-ish symbols probably represent feathers for birds. And then we might have some mountains right along there.
Okay. Why, BJ, tell us a little bit about why these symbols might be on this pot.
Well, they probably lived in a desertish area and there's not a whole lot of water there. And so they probably make these spots represent water because they didn't have a whole lot there.
Great. And we have a student on the phone, Jessica. Are you there, Jessica from New York? Jessica?
I don't know.
Hello, Jessica.
Hey.
Hi, Jessica. Are you there?
Yes. Yes.
Jessica, can you see the pot that I'm holding here? Do you see this? No?
Yes.
Yes. Can you tell me, what are some of the things that you'd see on this pot?
Do you repeat that?
Can you tell me what colors you see on this pot? What are some of the colors on the pot?
I can't understand you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Jessica, do you have a question? Maybe you can tell us what your question is.
Oh, my question. Where all the tribes, one tribe at one time?
Where, say that again, Jessica?
Where all the tribes, one tribe at one time?
Were all the tribes one tribe at one point in time? That's a good question.
At one time.
That's a good question. Actually, they weren't all Native American people come from different places. They all have their own creation stories and their own histories. And so not all Native American people were one tribe at one time. That's a great question, Jessica. Thanks for calling in. I want to talk a little bit more about the pots. We noticed on here that these are kind of natural earthy colors, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about where these colors might have come from?
Natural resources, maybe dirt, bark.
So from rock, from stone or mineral pigments that they might have come from. Great, we have a couple of other containers here that I want to take a look at. BJ, tell us a little bit about this container.
This container, it's made out of birch bark, and it's got a little design on the top of it of a flower, and the flower was made out of dyed porcupine quills.
That's right, dyed porcupine quills. And the birch bark containers are a great thing to make containers out of, because birch bark is rot resistant, and it also could be made waterproof. So this is a container that it's a little small, so I don't know necessarily what it would be used for, but birch bark could be used to make everything from little containers to boats to big containers that might hold water. We have one other container I want to take a quick look at. BJ, tell us what this is.
This is a parfleche. It is made out of buffalo hide, and it's used for carrying probably dry meats, food, clothes, and any other thing that you could probably fit in it.
Okay, so are parfleches all this size, or do they come in different sizes?
No, they come in a variety of sizes.
They come in a variety of sizes. BJ, I wanted to know if you could tell us a little bit about our trip to the Cultural Resources Center. This weekend we went with the students to the Cultural Resources Center, which is where the museum's collection is stored, and we looked at some containers. What are some of the things we saw there, and what was one of your favorite things?
Well, we saw baskets, baby carriages, boxes, bowls.
So we saw a lot of things. What was one of your favorite?
Probably the smallest basket.
The smallest basket, how big was it?
About the size of a flea.
It's true, it was very small. And was there anything else that you liked?
Probably the largest basket.
The largest,
too.
And how big was that one?
It could fit 2 or 3 people in it.
That's right, it was pretty big. Okay, let's see, do we have one more question from our students here, our Hardy Middle School students? Why don't we take the one down here on the end, Amanda? This one? Take the one down here on the end, Amanda. Thank you. What's your name?
Alex.
What's your question?
How long did it take them to make the little pottery?
Alex asked how long it took to make the pottery. It depends, Alex, that's a good question. It depends on what kind of thing you're making. If you're making something very small, it could take a long time because it might be harder to make something small, but it also probably takes a long time to make something big. Each pot is made by hand, so the amount of time that's put into it is reflected in the quality of the pot. So if you can imagine having to build something from scratch by hand, it would take quite a while. We want to look now. We've talked about the East. Cynthia and John talked about the Pamunkey people who live here in Southern Virginia, and now we're going to go ahead and move north. We're going to talk about some different communities and people from the northern part of the Western Hemisphere.
Hi, we're now on the north side of the building. We're directly across from the National Mall, which is right across the street. And we're standing next to the northern cardinal direction marker. And as I said earlier, if you were to take a line, draw a line from this stone directly behind us, you'd end up in the center point of the Potomac space, which is pretty much the center of the museum. So this is on the north side of the building. We're in the hardwood forest area of the landscape. You can see some of the trees around us here. And Jacob, could you tell us, this is the oldest of the 4 cardinal direction markers. Could you tell us how old this particular stone is?
It's about 4 billion years old.
Now, if you heard me, said billion years old. So this is one of the oldest stones on the planet Earth. It's 4 billion years old. And this came from a pretty cold place. Could you tell us where this stone came from?
This came from the Northwest Territories in Canada.
Right, so it's really far north where this particular stone came from, and the museum worked with the Dagrib community in selecting this particular stone. Now this one, even though it's the oldest stone, it's probably the smallest, or it is the smallest of the 4 cardinal direction markers. And could you tell us roughly how much this stone weighs?
It weighs about 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, so it's it's a smaller stone, and a lot of people don't realize it's out here in the landscape, but it's very important as a cardinal direction marker. And finally, Jacob, could you tell us what kind of stone this is?
It's a nice rock.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's a form of granite, and you see a lot of granite used throughout the design of the museum. It came from the shore of Acasta Lake, which is near Yellowknife, Canada. So that's it on the northern cardinal direction marker. Back to you, Glenn and Logan.
Okay, thanks guys. We have a caller on the line, and the caller is Logan?
Cornia from Oklahoma.
Karina from Ohio.
Ohio.
Go ahead, Karina.
Hi, my question is that on the pottery, do different shapes, geometric shapes, mean different things?
On the pottery, do different geometric shapes mean different things? That is a great question. So let's send this one over to Cynthia. She's with John, and where are they again?
They're in the, I do believe that they're still in the Pamunkey exhibit.
That's right. Cynthia and John?
Hi, that's a great question, Karina. The pottery, it really depends, because certain pot shapes were primarily for utilitarian purposes. If you had a certain shape of a pot, it might be to carry water, or if it was just sort of an open bowl, it might be used to hold food. And I think maybe you might have been also asking about designs on pottery, certain shapes or designs on pottery. Yes, these designs have particular significance from tribe to tribe. It really depends. For example, in the Pueblos where I'm from, certain designs or symbolize clouds or rain or other elements in nature. So certainly the shapes and designs have significance in Native American culture and pottery. Thanks for that question.
Okay, thanks a lot for that question. We're going to take a look now at one of the tribes from the north.
Yes, we are. We're going to look at the Iglulik community video, I guess.
All right, let's take a look.
My name is Theo Ikumak. I was born in Iglulik, which is right behind me. Iglulik has a population of about 1,600 people, of which about 80% is Inuit. And being Inuit, it's a very cultural community. And at this time of year, which is spring, we have 24 hours sunlight. The sun rose about, let's say, May the 19th, and it won't set again until early August. So it's up 24 hours. On the sea ice. And with 12 million seals, you know, they gotta be everywhere. Inuit have 8 seasons. So this is one part of the season where it's early spring, and as we know it, but we have a specific term for that, upanga. This is the time when the snow starts melting on the sea ice, and all the berth layers are collapsing, so therefore you can find the seals a lot faster.
We have a question. Caller Emily from New York. What is your question, Emily? Hi, Emily. What is your question? Emily, are you there, Emily? You just actually saw a video about the Igloolik community, and Hannah, where are the Igloolik people at?
They're north of the Arctic.
That's right. And so, what are some of the things that you will see in the Igloolik community?
You'll probably see their transportation, types of clothes, and their environment.
That's right. The Iglooliks live in very cold country up north of the Arctic in a place called Nunavut. It's actually an island in central Arctic. And some of the things that you will see are, just like you said, transportation, the environment. And one of the things that they really do talk about is the relationship between elders and their youth and some of the storytelling that happens in their community. So we're actually going to move back down to the Potomac space and talk with Jenny. And we're also going to meet Vernon. Jenny?
Thanks, Jared. I'm standing here with Vernon. Vernon is one of the staff members here at the museum. Vernon is actually Yupik Eskimo from Alaska, which is north. Remember, we're talking about the north. So I want to let Vernon introduce himself. Vernon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Vernon Chimelha. I'm a Yupik Eskimo, originally from the state of Alaska in southwestern Alaska, and I'm a cultural arts program specialist here at the museum and do all the fun things of programming all the dancers and performing artists who come to the museum and do their performances here.
That's a very important job here at the museum. Vernon, why don't you tell us a little bit about the clothes that you're wearing? We're going to actually learn about some dancing with Vernon in a little while, but I think some kids might want to know what you're wearing.
Alrighty, the type of clothing, it's a very small portion of clothing that I'm wearing. It's more lighter clothing that we wear in Alaska, except for the boots. My mukluks are called geokaliks, and these are men's boots that we use within the Yupik culture. And then I also have these gloves that are beaded and also have hide and made of otter, land otter. And then I also have this top here. It's called the qasp, and it's a more modern, modified version of the skin jackets that we would wear within our culture. And we have to wear lots of clothing, and it's pretty much practical clothing that you would wear in the cold weather.
Right, but not in the really cold weather.
Not in the really cold weather.
Okay. All right, kids at home, we're going to take some time and now work with Vernon. He's going to teach us about a Yupik dance, which I mentioned before. So why don't, in your classrooms, if everybody could stand up, you'll get a chance to dance along with us here at the museum. If you keep an eye on what Vernon's doing, he's going to teach us a dance about walrus cutting, right?
Yes, about walrus cutting.
Okay, and we have our students here from Hardy Middle School. Vernon, why don't you step over here and you can start telling us a little bit about the dance, and we'll get the students in place.
All right, the dance that we'll be performing today is going to be about walrus cutting, and we will be making the motions of walrus cutting. And dance is a big part of the Yupik culture, and pretty much a part of all the Eskimo cultures throughout the circumpolar world. And what they will use dance in is entertainment, and there's a part of it that is used for religious or supernatural types of beliefs and that sort of thing. And then what people will do is they will tell stories through song and dance, because in the Eskimo cultures we never had a written form of language, and so everything that was experienced in life would be put into a song. And then there's others that are done for special ceremonies that we do in private. But then these public dances that we do, like the one we're going to be learning today, is called the walrus cutting dance. And Eskimo dance is about symmetry. So you'll do a movement on one side. If you do a movement on one side, you have to do the movement on the other side. And on this particular dance, there's only one pretty much word that we all have to remember, and it's ya ya. So that's the only word that you're going to have to do. The motions tell the dance. And then so we're going to cut the walrus. Cut the walrus. It's a hot day, so you're going to wipe your forehead. Then you're going to take the meat, and then you're going to hang it up to dry. So come on, children, let's start the dance. Okay, remember, With the right hand first. Okay, let's go. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One more time. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Great.
Good job. Thank you, Vernon. If we can have all the students stay here, we might see if there's any other questions for Vernon. And Amanda has a microphone. If one of our students has a question. How about this young man right here? What's your name?
My name is Jaquan, and my question is, do you have like a holiday or a celebration for the walrus?
The question is, do Yupik people have a holiday or a celebration for the walrus?
Yeah, well, we have celebrations that might be a little different than we do in the Western culture, but we do have celebrations that celebrate our hunting and gathering seasons and that sort of thing, so that would fall into that category. He was asking if we had a special celebration for walrus, but we would all lump it into hunting and gathering celebrations.
Are there any other questions? How about we take the other one here?
What's your name and your question?
Malcolm, and my question is, what tribe are you from?
What? Can you say your question again?
What tribe are you from?
What tribe? Vernon, can you tell us about what tribe you're from?
Okay, he's asking what tribe I'm from, and in Alaska we have 11 different culture groups. There's not just one. Sometimes when folks think about Alaska, they think there's just Eskimos, but there's 5 Eskimo culture groups and 6 Indian groups, and I'm from the Yupik culture group, and Yupik means real person. So I'm from the real people tribe.
That's great. Thanks so much, Vernon. I think we also have a question from Carla in Nevada. Carla? Oh, I'm sorry, California. Carla, are you there? Carla, do you have a question for us?
No.
What's your question, Carla?
Do the pictures on the pot tell a story?
Do the pictures on the pot tell a story? That's a good question. Sometimes pictures on containers and on pots do tell stories. The same way Vernon was telling a story through his dance. There are a lot of different ways that stories can be told that aren't just about, that don't just come out of our mouths. We can tell stories by drawing pictures, and sometimes pictures are drawn on our clothes or on pots or other containers. Sometimes they're drawn on stones or rocks. So yeah, sometimes they do tell stories. I think the pot that we showed you here, I don't think that that's actually a story, but that's a great question. Thanks, Carla. We have another caller on the line. Oh, I'm sorry, Glenn.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. We want to remind you, you've heard us taking some calls from some people. You can call in, and we will ask, if you call in, we may ask you or answer your question live on the air. And there's another way people can get involved as well, right?
Right. You can email us on our address at the bottom of your screen, or you can, and one of our experts will tell you the answer to your question, or you could just look around.
And we may actually talk about some of those questions live on the air if you email us a question, right?
Right.
And I think we've got one of those now, don't we?
Yes, I think we do. Jared, I think, has one, right?
Yeah, let's go to Jared.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, Logan. We have a question in from Casey. And Hannah, would you ask that question?
Casey would like to know if it's hard to walk through the T-shaped doors.
Now, Casey is referring to T-shaped doors of the Pueblo Indians in the desert Southwest, and their doorways are actually shaped in a T-shaped form. Now, the doorways are designed actually to keep the cold weather out in the winter and the hot weather out in the summer. And you actually have to step over a short wall located at the base of the doorway. So you can't actually walk through the door. You have to step over the wall to make it through. Back to you, Glenn.
Okay, great. So again, this is your field trip out there. We want you to get involved, right? So we've got another forum question right now.
I think we do.
Where are we going? Let's go to John and Cynthia, okay?
Okay, John.
It says, do a lot of Native Americans today still speak their language fluently at their household and school? The answer is absolutely. One of the tribes that I'm aware of that really entitles their language is the Navajo, out of Arizona and New Mexico. Also, there are noted as being one of the biggest tribes in North America.
Okay, great. Thanks for those questions. Keep those questions coming in, whether it's via email or on the phone. In fact, right now we have Shalissa from Missouri on the phone. Shalissa, go ahead with your question.
Hi. I was wondering how they tell the age of the rocks.
How do they tell the age of the rocks? Who's our rock expert today?
Jared. Jared, do you know the answer to that question?
Let's go to Dwayne.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not exactly the rock expert, but we did have geologists working with us on this project, and geologists from the Museum of Natural History are able to look at these rocks and compare them to the period that they were from, and judging by the area that they're from, they're able to tell the history of the rock and how old it is. So that's how we're able to know the age of the stones. We can't predict it exactly, but we can get pretty close, and that's geologists who are able to help us with that information.
Okay, and we saw Dwayne out there. He was standing with Athena, and they are by the South Rock. And so far we've talked about what two directions?
The east and the north.
The east and the north. And so now where are we going?
We're probably going to the south one.
That's right. Let's get going on the south direction.
Hi, we're now on the south side of the building. This is the crop and meadow area of the landscape. Behind us is actually a crop area where this spring we're going to be planting corn, beans, squash, and tobacco. And as Logan said earlier, corn, beans, and squash are known as the three sisters to native communities. And tobacco is also an important crop because it's used in ceremonies, and so we're going to grow all those crops directly behind us. Athena and I are standing next to the southern cardinal direction marker, and if you were to draw a line from this stone through the building, you would end up again in the center line or the center point of the Potomac space inside the building. And this stone is from a location very far south. You want to tell us where this stone's from?
I believe it's from Muscle Bay, Chile.
That's correct. It's all the way from southern Chile, near a body of water called Muscle Bay. And this is a fairly large stone. You can see it's practically hiding us entirely. And this particular stone, how much does this one weigh? This is the biggest one, isn't it?
Yeah. It's 65 to 145 million years old.
Right, so that's the age. You can see it's got a age range of 65 to 145 million years. So as I said, we can't pinpoint some of the ages exactly. Now this one, what is the weight of this one? How much does it weigh?
7,000.
Yeah, so this one's 7,000 pounds. You remember the northern stone was only 2,000 pounds, so this is definitely the largest one. The museum worked with the Yagan community from southern Chile in selecting this stone, and it was interesting in talking to community members. Some of the older members of the community remember climbing on this stone as children, and now when you see it outside the museum, sometimes we see some of our younger visitors climbing on the stone, and it's kind of I think the stone is takes kindly to having people climb on it because it's used to that. The other thing I wanted to say is Athena has a little story to tell. Sometimes you find some interesting things under rock, some things you don't necessarily want to find, like worms, but there was a story about what they found under this rock when they moved it. What's that about?
When they were moving it, they found mussels under the rock.
Yeah, so there were all sorts of shells underneath this rock, and they must have been there for many, many, many years because this was found near a body of water. So it tells you sort of somewhat about the location of the rock and what was underneath it. So back to you, Glenn and Logan. We're done here on the south side.
Okay, thanks, guys. We have another caller on the line.
Michael from California, I believe. Michael, what's your question?
My question is, what is the most economic backbone of Indian American?
What is the economic background of most American Indians? Is that your question?
No. What is the most economic backbone of Indian American?
Oh, what is the economic backbone of American Indians?
Yep.
Jenny, why don't you take that question for us?
Okay, that's a good question, Michael. American Indian people actually there's a lot of business that American Indian people are involved in, and it ranges everything from development of agricultural products and crops that tribes actively grow and sell. It also sometimes tobacco and other crops like that. Also, casinos are one thing that some tribes are involved in, but that's a very small minority of the number of tribes who have a large income from casinos. Most Native American tribes do not have casinos on their reservations, and those few that do, a number of them are out here in the eastern part of the United States. But tribes have a lot of different ways that they try to support their communities, and sometimes they have things that they sell or things that they make and they sell, and so those are some of the ways that they support themselves. We're here in the South, as Dwayne and Athena were telling us a little bit about the Southern Stone, and so I wanted to introduce to all of our viewers another museum person, another staff person here from the museum. Jose Montano is one of the cultural interpreters in the museum, and he is an Aymara Indian from Bolivia. And Jose is going to talk with us today and tell us a little bit about himself and his community. Jose, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about where you're from?
Thank you. My name is Jose Montano. I am Aymara from La Paz, Bolivia, South America. In my country, the Aymaras and Quechua people, and they are spiritually and economically tied to the land, which is among the most varied in the world. And numerous distinct environmental zones that determine the altitude and all the annual celebrations, the dry and the wet cycles.
So the seasons in the land are an important part of your culture and your community in Bolivia.
Yes, for all these activities like planting, harvest, cleaning the fields, and weavings, and as well the ceremonies are divided according to the solar calendar.
Okay, and Jose actually has worked with our students here from Hardy Middle School, and they made some flutes. If there are any students who are watching who made flutes in your classroom, did the straw flute activity, go ahead and get your flutes out and get them ready, because Jose's going to tell us a little bit about the instruments that he brought here, and then he's going to give us a chance to hear a song from the students who are from Hardy Middle School, and those of you who are watching can also play along with the students here. But while everybody's getting their flutes out and getting ready, Jose, why don't you tell us a little bit about the instruments that you brought here? These panpipes are called siku, correct?
Yes. Well, in general, all the wind instruments of the high plains is played on wind and percussion instruments. All the wind instruments of the high plains is played with families of instruments reflecting the families of the communities. Just like human families, which consist of parents and children of various ages, and each instrumental family is made up of instruments of various sizes. So we call instrumental families, and each instrumental family always is played by 12 or more musicians. As well, each instrumental family is played with a particular type of drums.
Great, and so you were explaining to us before that each of these instruments, the siku is made up of two pieces, the arca and the ira, and those two pieces need to be played together in cooperation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I will explain, but before to explain the panpipes, how about if I play a song?
Oh, that'd be great. Okay, Jose is going to play a song for us.
And this instrument is called wakatinti in Aymara language, have 3 holes, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. And it's played together with this drum, it's called in Aymara language huancara. And the wind instruments represent all the elements from the sky. The drum are symbol of the earth. So when these played together, represent the cosmic wholeness. So we'll play a little bit, and so please, I will ask the students to help us with the hands. Please, hands, everyone.
That was great. Can you want to? That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
This is some example from the instruments, because in the rural areas, each community has different type of instrument and always play according to the solar calendar for planting, harvest.
So planting and harvesting are an important part of, they play a role in the music.
About pan pipes, and the pan pipes are called sikus in the Aymara language. The sikus have two parts, the arca and the ira. The notes of the scale are distributed alternately between the arca and the ira. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Example. The tradition in my country, two musicians play one instrument. One person to play the arca, the other person to play the ira. The value about these musical instruments is the cooperation, and the way we play these musical instruments reflects the system in the rural areas.
So cooperation is an important part of this, and the lesson that we did with Jose, where the students divided in half of them made arcas and half of them made iras. Those of you who are watching in your classrooms, if you have your flutes, go ahead and get them out and get them ready. We want to make sure that you get a chance to try to play with Jose while he's here.
All right, we will demonstrate this cooperation technique. So we will, a group already is divided in two groups.
Okay.
So we will, I hope everybody is ready.
Okay,
all
students,
right.
We're going to go ahead and try to play.
All right. So please together, can you say sikus? Sikus. Arca. Arca. Ira. Ira. All right. Ready? All right. Slow, please. All right. 2, 3, 4.
Great job. Jose, thank you very much for doing that. I wanted to have one quick question, if you could take just a quick second to tell us about the clothes that you're wearing.
Well, what I have here is called chuspa, and it's for people use for care sometimes medicinal plants or personal things. I have as well this other small chuspa, it's for care coca leaves.
Okay, so your bags are for carrying medicinal plants,
yes.
or coca leaves?
And the coca leaves are sacred medicinal plant.
Okay.
We use for ceremonies, but as well for care of health.
Okay, so for your health, for good health.
Yes, and as well we have the luchu. And so it's all the colors as well are related with the activities for planting, harvest, and the symbols as well are related with the whole system itself.
Great, thanks so much, Jose. We really appreciate your sharing your music and your instruments with us today. I want to go ahead and pass it up to Cynthia and John upstairs in the Pamunkey exhibit. Cynthia?
Thanks, Genevieve. We're here talking today about the Kalinago, who are also from the south. They live in a place called Carib Territory, which is located on the island of Dominica in the Caribbean. John, can you share an interesting historical fact about the Kalinago?
They were one of the first groups that encountered Columbus.
Yeah, that's right. They were one of the first groups that Columbus encountered, and at the time, way back in history, they were called the Carib. Today, they're known as the Kalinago, which is the name of their ancestors. One of the important things to know about the Kalinago is that they live in a very beautiful place. You'll see that in the exhibit. They practice basketry. They have cultural groups. What are the names of a couple of their cultural groups, Sean?
Karina and Carafuna.
Yes, the Karina and Carafuna are youth cultural groups in Carib territory. They practice music, dance, they make traditional attire, and they perform for educational purposes as well as for tourists. Tourism is an important part of the economy in Carib territory. Like I said, the Carafuna and the Karina groups perform for tourists, and then they make baskets as well. Baskets are an important part of the cultural identity of the Kalinago. John, can you let us know why it's important for Native peoples to learn their cultural traditions?
Because if they don't, I think that their language and culture and stuff like that might die out.
Yeah, that's right. It's really important for Native peoples to continue their cultural traditions as we move into the 21st century. Right now we're going to go to a story on the Kalinago where you can learn more about their cultural identity.
People think that banana production to them is important, more important than tourism, because it's something that they've been used to over the years, and they feel that they can continue unchanged. However, we know that there's got to be changes. We've seen a decline in the banana industry, and a number of farmers have left the industry. There is space now for something else, and it is felt that tourism could fill in that space and bring an income for the Carib people.
The whole increase of tourism to the community have affected cultural interest of younger people. They see an economic thing in it. We go and dance with the visitors. We get some money at the end of the month. That's cool. Because what happens is to get the money, they must learn the traditional dances. You see, so it has affected it positive in that sense, where they have more young people coming forward wanting to learn and dance those traditional dances. Once they've done it, once they've got into it, they stay with it.
We have been in the struggle for a long time. Now we have children to high school, we have them going into universities. Now is the time for us to ensure that we make a future for them.
Now we have a foreign question up with Jerry and Hannah. Hey, you guys, what's the question?
Hey, Logan. Hey, Glenn. Hannah?
Addington would like to know if Native American languages were written the way they were today or in Egyptian hieroglyph.
That's a really good question. One of our experts actually responded by saying that Native languages were actually passed down from generation to generation through oral traditions. However, that Native languages were sometimes recorded using symbols on animal skins, pieces of tree bark, and rocks to convey meanings. Also in the early 1800s, there was a Cherokee leader by the name of Sequoyah who actually developed the Cherokee syllabary. It's actually an alphabet that is still used today. Back to you, Glenn.
Okay, great. We're going to take some questions now from the children from Hardy School who are here, right?
Right.
All right, Jenny, take it away.
Hey, great. Amanda's out here with our students. Amanda, we have a question in the audience.
What's your name and your question? My name is Dahabina, and my question was, are all of the pipes made out of wood?
So this is a question for Jose. Jose, maybe you could answer this question. Are all of the pipes in your siku made out of wood?
Well, some instruments, is the pan pipes we call chaya, which is like a bamboo. It's very light material. But as well, all the instruments we use for bamboo, we call chuki, as well tokoro, and as well instruments made from wood.
So they are made from wood. They're made from bamboo, which is a kind of wood. Yeah. Great, thanks, Jose. We have another question in the audience. What's the question here, Amanda?
What's your name and your question?
My name is Zach, and my question is approximately how many Native American tribes were there?
Zach's question is, how many Native American tribes were there? Well, that's an interesting question, Zach, because actually there are still Native American tribes here in the United States and all throughout the Western Hemisphere today. It's hard to say exactly how many there were before Europeans came to this continent and to the Western Hemisphere, but it's probably safe to say that there were thousands of communities that lived all throughout the Western Hemisphere. Today in the United States, there are over 562 federally recognized tribes. There are a couple of hundred state-recognized tribes, and there are also other communities in Canada and in South and Central America that are very actively involved in the places where they live and still have a very strong presence in their communities there where they live. Those are great questions. Thank you all for helping out with us with those questions. We're going to now move to the west. We've talked about the east. We then moved to the north, where Vernon taught us about some Yupik dancing. We just learned about the south from Jose. Jose is from Bolivia. And now we're going to end up in the west. So let's go ahead and move on to the west.
Hi, Jacob and I are now on the west side of the building, and we're directly across from the National Air and Space Museum. And we are standing next to the fourth and final marker, cardinal direction marker. This is the western cardinal direction marker. And this came from a fairly exotic place. Jacob, do you want to tell us where it's from?
This rock is from Hilo, Hawaii.
And as I mentioned earlier, all of these stones are connected to the center of the building. And in this particular case, do you want to tell us, explain these slots in the wall directly behind us?
If you follow this rock all the way through these slots, it will lead you straight to the center of the Potomac where Logan and Glen are.
So this is actually an architectural feature of the building. It was incorporated into the building. There would be this literal connection between this stone and the center of the building. And this is our youngest of the four cardinal direction markers. How old is this particular stone?
It's about 400 years old.
And what kind of stone is this?
This is lava rock.
And it comes from, as he said, it's from Hilo, Hawaii. And the museum worked with the Kapuna community in selecting this particular stone. And we have a story about this stone that we'll get back to a little later. So we're going to go back to Glenn and Logan right now.
Okay, thanks guys. You saw the rock out there that's from Hawaii. We're actually standing next to a Hawaiian boat, right, Logan?
Yes, we are.
So what are some of the things you think are interesting about this boat?
Is that if you look inside of it, it's a lot more deeper than usual boats are.
Okay, and what about the outrigger and the float that you see out here? What are those used for?
Those are used for keeping the boat balanced.
This is a boat that you would normally see where?
Out in the ocean.
Okay, so this is a boat you would see out in the ocean. Now, this is very rare wood. The main part of the boat is made out of koa wood. There is not much koa wood left. It's protected. It was normally harvested at 2,000 to 5,000 feet above sea level, but now they are no longer allowed to harvest this wood, so Hawaiians will make these boats out of fallen trees. And what did we learn about the length of this boat? This boat's maybe 20 feet long, but if this were a boat that they were actually using in Hawaii, how long might this boat be?
This boat would probably be about 50 to 100 feet.
50 to 100 feet. And typically it would take someone about 3 months to make a boat like this. So you'd need a lot of patience to build a boat like this, wouldn't you?
Yes, you would.
Okay, I think we have another forum question. Who's got the forum question for us?
I think it's Jared.
Okay, Jared.
If it's still correct to call Native American Indians?
That's a really good question. One of our experts responded by that, saying that Native Americans, First Nations, American Indians, those are all actually preferred terms that Native people prefer to call themselves. But more specifically, Native people like to be called by their tribes. For example, I'm Navajo and Hannah is Kickapoo. So if you know the tribal name of the group, use that name, and that's the best the way to address a Native person. Back to you, Glenn.
Okay, thanks guys. We're moving right along here. We have one more community story for you.
We're going to go to the Hupa community story.
Okay, the Hupas live out west in the northern part of California. So again, it's keeping with our theme of talking about the western part of the world.
This is the village where I'm from here. It's called Tyka Milton. We're standing in front of the
Huntan Nikau, which is Hupa word for house, our church house.
These houses, these junta, are very sacred to us. These in particular have been continuously inhabited for over 10,000 years.
Right here we have our Hupa brush dance pit. This one's been set up to where the people can sit down and look on our brush dance. Our medicine woman here in this dance, brush dance, they have to go out and collect plants, things they're going to use to make medicine with here to keep the healing going. They have to go out in the woods to get it. Our local church groups up here decide that we're doing bad things down here. We've had them set up little church groups up there in the middle of town with amplifiers where we're dancing here and they're singing their church songs over to.
We're back at the Western Cardinal Direction Marker, and as I mentioned earlier, the museum worked with the Kapuna community on selecting this particular stone, and the Kapuna have a very special connection to this stone. They saw it as being very significant to them, and to the point where they actually believe this stone has a spirit, and they gave this stone a name which is Kanapo, and that to them means that this stone is actually a relative of theirs. And what does that mean to us, Jacob?
That we have to return this rock in 20 years back to Hawaii.
Right, and the other thing that happened with the selection of all of these stones is in working with the communities, there were ceremonies and blessings that were performed by each community with its particular stone to wish that the stone would have a safe journey to Washington, D.C., and also that we also had ceremonies to welcome the stones here to D.C. So if you notice in front of this stone, the Hawaiian community actually came and performed some prayers and ceremonies with this particular stone, and you can see some of the items that were left behind as part of that ceremony. So these are very special rocks to the museum, and they're a very important part of the landscape. And that's it for the Cardinal Direction Markers. Now we're going to go back to Glenn and Logan.
Okay, thanks guys. Well, Logan, it's time for us to review what we've learned today.
Yes, we've learned about everything that there should be known about this museum. We've learned about all 4 cardinal directions. We've learned about the different communities in the museum. And we've also learned about different tribes around the museum.
And we've learned about pottery, we've learned about containers, we learned about the boat, music, and dancing. So we really have had a great experience today here, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Would you guys agree? Amanda, Casey, BJ, all right. We want to just remind you all that there will be another electronic field trip coming up next month, and we're going to be live from the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown, New York.
Examine and take a closer look at the 19th century baseball.
We're going to examine 19th century history, a time period that helped shape the current state of our nation through business, communication, immigration, and more.
We'll play a real vintage baseball game with 19th century rules. Quite different than how we play today.
Just like today, you'll have a chance to call in live with your questions or ask our panel of online experts questions during the show.
Look for an interactive website with lots of great information, games, puzzles, and a lot more. Launch next week.
That's right. We're going to be live again for the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown, New York, on April the 26th, so tune in then. It's going to be a fantastic program. We want to thank you for joining us today for the electronic field trip. We want to thank our sponsors, Ball State University,
National Museum of the American Indian,
and also Best Buy Children's Foundation, who has just announced they will be funding this program again next year, so we'll be able to bring you more live interactive electronic field trips. Jenny, thank you too to all of your people here at the museum for being great hosts to us this week. We've had a wonderful time, we've learned a lot, and let's go out having a little bit of fun. Jenny?
Great, thanks Glenn. Before we leave, I want to take a moment to introduce the Aloha Boys. They are going to perform for us. They're here with Ashley also, who's going to do a dance along with their music as well. Do you want to tell us where you're from, Glenn?
Hi, Ramon Camarillo from Pearl City, Oahu. Isaac Ho'opi'i from Waianae, Oahu. Irv Keha from Waihewa, Oahu. My name is Glenn Hirabayashi from Kauai. And Hokunani Hirabayashi, my daughter. We'd like to start with a hula. This is called Ka'uluvehiokekai. It's a hula dance about picking seaweed and having lots of fun.
He ho'oheno ke aku, ke kai moana nui la, nui ke aloha, e hi'ipo ine me ke alau kalipoa. He ho'oheno ke aku, ke kai moana nui la, nui ke aloha, e hi'ipo ine me ke alau kalipoa. He lilipoa I pai ke one hinu hinu la, me laika la, ke ia e mamana I pono ke ia. He lilipoa I pai ke one hinu hinu la, me laika la, ke ia e mamana I pono ke ia. Kalimukohu, ke kawiluna o na mokula, o ia moku au lala e ho, o ni ana ia nei. Hou kohu, kalimukohu, ke kawiluna o na mokula, o ia moku au lala e ho, o ni ana ia nei. Haina mai kapuana, kalihipoa me kalimuko, hoa pilio e me kapahe, anoni me kalipalu. Haina mai kapuana, kalihipoa me kalimuko, hoa pilio e me kapahe, anoni me kalipalu. Anoni me kalipalu.
Ka'uluvehiokekai, the beautiful and talented Hokunani. Her name means beautiful star. She is a 9th grader. You know, long before there was Clark Kent, the original Superman in Hawaiian legend was named Maui. Maui had a magic fishing pole and hook, and he fished the islands out of the ocean. And back in those days, the sun flew by really fast, and Maui reached up and grabbed the sun and slowed it down so that the kapa could dry and the crops could grow. And then the fire went out, and mankind had no fire, but Maui came to the rescue and reignited fire for all of us. Here's the story about that mischievous, marvelous, magical Maui.
Oh, told is the tale of the mischievous one who fish out the islands and capture the sun. His deed and task I will not match, so that you understand that before there was a Clark Kent, there was a Hawaiian Superman. Fish out the island magical. Would it be more? Somebody look in the cool mountainside, had to unwind. So down the fight, copper could try. Secret, mischievous, marvelous, magical Maui. Here resolved this land. The one, the only, the ultimate Hawaiian Superman. Marvelous, magical Maui. 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 Hawaiian Superman. Maui. Magical Maui, Maui, Maui.